Charles is here to talk about the Egyptian presidential election, and the results may actually surprise the world. Charles, who's leading, and why is it potentially a surprise?
That's the big question, and I mean, the big surprise is that nobody knows who's going to win this contest. You know, for decades, Egypt's elections have been, highly scripted affairs. There has been no real contest. Few have actually voted, and we have a contest now that there's 13 candidates, 4 leading contenders, and it's hard to find anyone in this country who feels confident making any sort of confident prediction about what's going to happen when the results come out in a couple of days.
Now Amr Moussa, the foreign minister, he had been leading?
Amr Moussa is widely seen as the front runner. He's been campaigning the longest. He appeals to a broad cross-section of Egyptian voters that seems to sort of speak to the mood of the country right now. A lot of polls have consistently had him leading, but the polls here have been so unreliable, have been so unpredictable, so all over the place. And the dynamics have shifted, particularly just in the last few days or a couple of weeks before this election, that, while many still think Amr Moussa is a favorite to win, it's no one's going out on a limb, saying that he's a shoo-in by any stretch.
And ultimately, of course, we're going to look for 2 candidates to emerge from this first round of elections, and then there will be a second round on June 16th?
Right. So we're voting today, we're voting tomorrow. The top 2 candidates will go to a runoff on June 16th, and then we'll have our president. And again, the 2 candidates will likely be chosen from these 4 candidates who have emerged as frontrunners, these 2 Islamists, and these 2 sort of more secular ex-regime guys. And we're waiting to see who's going to be in the showdown.
One of them is also backed by the military, so which would be interesting in the sense that Egyptians, I presume, want to move away from military rule because they've basically had decades of it.
Right. Well, he's not explicitly backed by the military. The military officially says that it is maintaining impartiality in this contest, and it would certainly vehemently object to that characterization. That being said, this guy Ahmed Shafiq, he's a former Air Force commander. He's one of them. He's come from the military. He's a sort of potential ruler that Egypt has known for decades and is comfortable with, at least from the military's perspective. He has surged in the past, appeared to surge anyway in the past couple of weeks. Come from really nowhere to contender status. It appears he's had favorable coverage in the state-run media. He's had a very well-funded, slick campaign, but he also is appealing, I think, to he has a legitimate appeal to a certain segment of the Egyptian society, especially those who sort of long for the stability and the order and the predictability of the old regime, as opposed to and are more uncomfortable with sort of the chaos and uncertainty that has followed the revolution.
Okay, now tell us a little bit about another candidate, Abdel Munim, who you had a chance to interview. What did he tell you? He's an Islamist.
Yeah, no, I've known Abdel for years, for a decade now, and he's an interesting candidate. He was a longtime Muslim Brotherhood leader, but was always sort of pushing, sort of being a more progressive modernist faction within the Muslim Brotherhood, and caused a lot of conflict and tension within the movement as a result. He came out very early in favor of the revolution, stood by the secular revolutionaries who led the uprising against Mr. Mubarak, and won a lot of credit among them for those stands. He later left the Brotherhood and is now sort of, leading this unusual campaign in the world of Arab politics, whereby he's an Islamist. I mean, he spent 4 decades in the Muslim Brotherhood, and yet he espouses this vision of Islam and the way it relates to government that doesn't make, that a lot of liberals and even Christians are comfortable with and can relate to. And as a result, he's managed to bring into his camp a very unusual and in the world of Arab politics, unprecedented cross-section of society. He has these very conservative Islamists on one side. He has liberal, young, secular revolutionaries on the other. He has some Christians. He has Marxists. He has, and it's interesting if he can pull it off. I mean, there's definitely signs that he's stretched himself too far and that there's been some sort of backlash as he's tried to appeal to too many people. But
Great.
it's an interesting campaign.